Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week of Birds of a Feather live on A2D Radio. We are coming at you on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. You can also reach us on Apple Podcasts, Twitch, Stitcher, everything on social media. We're taking over the world, guys. We've got myself, Chucks. We've got Pete, Mr. Follow, like, share at A2D Radio, always promoting. Good job there, Pete. Chrome is away on vacation. He tried to come on for the for a little bit, but service down in Florida is bad, as well as amongst other things in Florida is bad. But he can't make it today. Yeah, I said it. And Kevin is hiding once again for another week. He couldn't take the beating he took 2 weeks ago, and with the news coming out with the Patriots that are opting out, it sounds like he's hiding again for another week.
He's opting out, yes.
He's opting out himself. He is opting out. So to help cover for both of them, we've got Jimmy Smith. Welcome, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate being here, man.
Yep, no problem. It's awesome to have you on. And hey, our second show doing together, and it should be a lot of fun. But today we are sponsored. The show is sponsored by our doc, Paul Vidal of Specialized Physical Therapy LLC. Find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton. SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com, and by Ambuck Services Gutter Cleaning for rotted board replacement, deck installation, and restoration. Tree trimming and other gutter-related services. Call 856-879-5530 or visit them at ambuckservices.com. Mention A2D to get 20% off. Our poll question today, guys, and Pete had to sign off for 1 second. He'll be right back. Don't worry, guys. But our poll question for tonight, there he is. There's Mr. Follow.
We thought you opted out.
This service made me want to opt out, bitch. I'll tell you that.
God. Our poll question, which is brought to you by QB54, the best tailgating game in the business. Visit them at playqb54shop.com and use the promo code NONOTES to get 20% off. And by Philly Drinkers, phillydrinkers.com, where you can get all your A2D merchandise, including the QB Factory shirt, if you use promo code A2D. So, poll question: not trading for Jamal Adams was the right move for the Eagles. We will touch on that blockbuster trade of Jamal Adams to the Seahawks, and we will also let that as a lead-in into training camp talk. We'll give a little bit of a training camp preview for the Eagles and around the league, give our thoughts on the cuts that they made to get the roster down to 80. We'll talk about how there are no preseason games and the ramifications of that. We'll talk about the news today of the first Eagles player to opt out, Marquis Goodwin, his decision to not play this season. And then to finish off the show, we will discuss Keenan Allen's tweet from yesterday about where he thinks he's ranked amongst wide receivers in the league. That should be a really good discussion. But like I said, poll question: not trading for Jamal Adams was the right move for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's go to our guest. Welcome, Jimmy Smith, again. What is your opinion? What's your quick take right off the bat? Do you think it was the right move for Howie Roseman to say, nah, we're good, and not to trade all those assets or something similar for the star safety Jamal Adams?
I think I'll have to agree with the poll. Now, this guy is a generational talent. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Fantastic football player. I don't know if it's necessarily Howie Roseman, and I know you're being facetious, but I don't know that he wouldn't want to make a trade like that. I think with the new rules coming out with the cap, the fact that we're going to be $70 million over the cap now, with the added $20 million onto that, that's rough. And I know he wants to be one of the top paid safeties in the league. So he's looking for a contract. Even if he's not, he still is owed $9 million next year. So that's hefty. I don't know if we would give up that much. I don't know if anyone should give up that much, to be honest with you. So I'm kind of glad we stayed put. But it's not that I wouldn't love having Jamal Adams. But I agree with the poll.
I agree. All right, Pete, what you got?
Yeah, not for a safety, brother. You can be a bad man, and then typically not for an in the box safety. You know what I mean? Really, how your scheme is played. He kind of fits that Seattle scheme. I mean, listen, he didn't get traded to Seattle to go replace Earl Thomas. He got traded to go replace Cam Chancellor. That's what they're missing. That's where I kind of see that. That's when really, if you had that Cam Chancellor type, you can have that second safety back there that's playing center field because Cam Chancellor had so much. So I get it from our Seattle standpoint why they did it, especially when the Jets weren't going to pay him. But they gave up a hell of a lot, man. A hell of a lot. I mean, another first, you might as well got it. You might as well trade it for a quarterback or something like that. At that point, you know what I mean? 2 firsts, a third, and you get back Jamal Adams in a fourth. He's good, but not for the Eagles, especially as Jimmy just said it, is being $70 million over the cap. Like you have to look to keep every asset. I remember we talked about it before during last season. I think Jimmy, before you jumped on, was that we talked about the Clowney. Let's give him up. Let's go get Ramsey. You know, all those trades in season. Let's go get Emmanuel Sanders. And I remember even Chuck was a big proponent of trying to keep every asset that you had, and then giving up that. I mean, and especially coming in the next year, this draft they really have to be on point. So that wasn't the right move for the Eagles at all. I'm not sure if it's the right move for the Seahawks, to be honest with you. It was definitely the right move for the Jets, though. I mean, you can't pass that up. That's a nice haul.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to the poll as well. I'm with you guys. I know a lot of people will say, oh, he's a superstar. He's one of the best safeties in the league. And that he is. However, when you kind of lump together all the safeties together, like it's important to separate the types of safeties and look deeper into it. And like you said, Pete, like I don't want to take away anything from Jamal Adams because I think he is absolutely one of the star safeties in the league. So he's a bad man. He's a dog. But to me, especially considering who we have, who we acquired this offseason, and then the type of safety we do need in terms of we need a single high safety behind McLeod. Adams isn't that type. He's not the type to play single high. You know, he's not your center fielder. And to me, the way I value the position, and others are different, other evaluators and analysts, you know, might value the safety position differently and what they look for. But for me, the true value of a safety is if they can play center field, because that's what requires. If they're going to be that center fielder in the cover 3, play on the deep end, cover 2, anything like that, that is the prime trait I look for in a safety. And even though I think Jamal Adams can do that in certain coverages, like he can play deep half in the cover 2, cover 4, stuff like that, I have my concerns about him being a full-time or even majority-time center fielder. And so I don't think the Eagles need that for one. I don't think the Eagles can get that from Jamal Adams. And so I don't think he was worth the price. If there was a guy like, to me, in my opinion, I can understand if people disagree. But if there was a Derwin James, or if there was, people love. I wanted Minkah Fitzpatrick last year, and you said they're available for trade, and Minkah was. I was pounding the table for Minkah. You know, then I would have wanted to trade for them. I'd want Derwin James to me is the best safety because I think he can do it all. He can play any type of role as a safety. I think he would have been worth 1 first-round pick, but to give up 2 and a third, you're getting into QB value territory when you're talking about trading assets. And I know that people have made this argument for Seattle. You know, they suck at first-round picks anyways, and that's true. Their first-round picks haven't been really that good. They've been very questionable the past several years. I don't like justifying giving up that much by saying, oh, you're bad at this anyway, so it's okay. Justifying it with a serious fault by not being good at drafting first-round picks, that's not an excuse. That's just trying to cover your ass in an asinine way. So yeah. I get what the Seahawks are trying to do, and they want to compete now. But man, like that's a lot to give up for a safety.
And it makes the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade look so much better, man, for Pittsburgh. It was a one. Like, I mean, you get Minkah for a one who, to me, is just a more overall center fielder. I mean, yeah, he may not like to get his nose as dirty, but it's just, I don't know, man. I just want for that Seattle scheme. I think he'll do well. He'll get his share. Like, he's coming into a scheme, and their scheme is going to use him to the best ability. And that's another thing why I'm glad the Eagles didn't trade for him, because I don't know what Jim Schwartz likes to do on the back end of the secondary. I mean, he really coaches to his talent so much. Well, I just don't think Jamal Adams would have been a better fit here. Fitzpatrick, maybe, because he's more versatile. Derwin James, yeah, he's more versatile. I'm not saying Jamal Adams isn't versatile. Jamal Adams is elite at what he does. What he brings to the table, he is very, 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 very good at. But that list may be shorter compared to what a Minkah Fitzpatrick or a Derwin James can do at an above average level. Maybe not an elite level, but at above average level. And if you give me those other two guys in coverage, I'll take Minkah and Derwin James over Jamal Adams every day of the week. No offense, Jamal. I mean,
yeah.
You know what? To your point, you were saying, it makes that trade look better. It makes, our trade look better for Darius Slay getting a number one corner. Yeah. So it shows they really gave up a haul. I will say, to Jamal Adams' case, I really like the guy. And, he can play everywhere, dude. I mean, the guy lined up at free safety and strong safety. And he had about a lot, actually, of snaps at free safety. But he had almost as many snaps at linebacker that he did at both safety positions. And he even had, I think it was like 318 snaps at an edge rusher. This guy definitely is an all-around player that can do it all. So I'm not sitting here saying he's not a great player, but I think him and Jamal Adams, Derwin James, great name that you guys both talked about. So I'll agree with you there. I think those two and Minkah are the top three talent in the league. So I think, yeah, it would have been great to have him, but I agree with both of you guys. Way too much to give up. Love what Chuck said. That's quarterback talk right there. With that many, wow, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and the thing is, now they still have to pay him.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you give him two ones in the third, you're going to pay him, and he's going to be the highest paid safety in the league. So,
great point, man.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird, man. It's just weird.
Absolutely. And I think that with Jamal Adams, if the way I see it, if we didn't get all if we didn't re-sign Jalen Mills to play safety, if we didn't acquire what's his name? Parks.
Will Parks. Yeah.
Will Parks, and then we didn't draft Kayvon Wallace in the fourth with high expectations. That'd be another conversation to have, because then maybe Howie would have been like, oh, we'll give you a player and a pick. Maybe that'll be in the conversation, because then at that point, yeah, we're looking for a Malcolm Jenkins replacement, And if we're looking for a Malcolm Jenkins replacement, then yeah, Jamal Adams is someone you got to look at. But considering all the names that we did have, I never thought it was on the table realistically. I never thought trading for Jamal Adams was a realistic possibility. I know a lot of people did. I know, obviously, we all know at AQD, it's Ralphie is the one that's always chirping to trade for every superstar that becomes available. But realistically, great player to have. But when you get into what you'd have to trade for and then sign him to, the money you got to pay him, it's really not on the table. What I want to ask you guys before we get into the training camp talk is, now that since there's not, we've had this kind of discussion over the whole offseason, but with it now entering training camp, and you see that Jamal Adams is not available anymore, who would you put your money on to play out of the whole season to get the most snaps, or to finish as the strong safety opposite of Roddy McLeod on our defense? You think it's either, you think Jalen will be the guy, you think Parks, or do you think it's Kayvon Wallace? Anyone can jump in, either.
I think it'll be Jalen Mills, obviously, to start the season, and I think throughout he's going to do a good job. I think that's a position, I've heard you guys say you've been talking about it. I know I've been talking about it for years to move this guy, but due to injury, you really couldn't. So I think hopefully he flourishes there. If not, we talk about sub packages. We talk about you're going to see Kayvon Wallace and Will Parks still get some time to play, even if, Jalen Mills is the starter. But if there's anyone that could push him, I really think Kayvon could be a starter by the end of the year, man. He really could. But that's all relying on Jalen Mills failing, right? So I'm hoping for the best. But I think Jalen Mills can hold it down, man. I really do.
My heart says Kayvon.
Yeah.
That's what my heart says. I mean, this dude, you listen to interviews, it sounds like he just eats, sleeps, breathes football, man. That's it. He's a dog, man. And but we've seen it to a fault. Jim Schwartz, he loves Jalen Mills. And I'm not saying I want Jalen Mills to underperform, but I think we paid too much attention to his covering skills. I have to go back and watch some film to see how he was with tackling. Like if he's consistent, if he likes to get his nose dirty, he likes to get in there. I know he likes to wag his finger a lot and he likes to pump himself on the chest. So when it comes to that, if you want to be a strong safety, there you go. But Will Parks is bigger. He's more suited to play that kind of hybrid position. So unless Jalen Mills has put on some weight, I really don't know. So it could be Parks as well, but my heart says Kayvon.
Yeah, I think I really like Kayvon, and especially where they drafted him. I had him in about that range, maybe late third, as a prospect. So I like Kayvon as like for the future, our future strong safety. Like I love him in that role. Like the guy's an animal. I look at the people in front of him, and I think that Parks also is going to get a shot, before even Kayvon, because Parks was a highly touted acquisition as well. So I think that the pecking order is going to be Mills and Parks, kind of, especially with no training camp, guys. Like no preseason games. Like, well, I don't want to say no training camp. There is training camp. There's no preseason. So with no preseason games, like all these rookies are behind the 8 ball, and so I think to start off, it is going to be Mills and Parks battling for playing time, with each other. But hey, if Kayvon comes in and by the end of the season is really starting to develop, kind of in a similar way that like Sanders was toward the end of the year, kind of letting his game come to him. I mean, I know it's a different position, but man, like, yeah, I think that I
Mr. Robotnik going on over there.
You got me still? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're frozen now.
Out on us.
But can you back now?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
My bad.
Go ahead. Continue your thought.
But yeah, pretty much what I'm saying is just I like Kayvon to be the future, and hopefully, by the end of the season, I would love, like you said, Pete, love for him to be the guy, because I think long term he will be the guy. But it's just hard to see him becoming anything too significant with those two guys ahead of him. So we'll see. Right. But I mean, like if it gets to a point where we don't need him to, that's a good sign, because that means Mills and are doing well enough. And I don't expect them to be like superstars in those roles, but they just need to be solid enough. You know what I mean? They just need to be dependable, make some plays here and there, and not be liabilities on the back end. And that's all we would need from them. We got several. Go ahead.
Now I was just going to say, even with the fam, thank you for rocking it. Prism, I know Don is in here, Gav's in here, Quentin is in here. So you kind of seeing everybody. But real quick, I think we also, besides the fact that the strong safety position in Jim Schwartz's scheme is an important position, whoever plays it is going to have the 8 ball behind them, because of who they're replacing. I mean, you're replacing Malcolm. I mean, And that's on the field and off the field. Now, you already know how I feel about his on the field skill set the past couple of years. A little overrated. But with that being said, my man was durable as hell. He never missed a snap. So that's some big shoes to fill as a leader and also on the field and is being durable. So that's, I mean, could you see if a DB2 goes down, do we rotate Jalen back to DB? That could happen too, especially for the fact of there's only 8 padded practices. 8, I believe. Yeah. No preseason, 8 padded practices. You know what happens when these guys come in, when they have an off season and they're not really working out, how many ACLs, hamstring issues, popped Achilles do we see? So that's even watered down more now. So you have to have a deep roster this year. Have to, because you're going to lose key guys. In the past couple of years, we already know we've already lost. We lost Brandon Brooks already. You know what I mean? So when but that's the one thing about our secondary this year. While it may not be up front loaded with talent that you've already seen on the field, it's a lot of bodies. It's a lot of competition. So for Kayvon may get a shot. He may get a shot.
I like what you said about, thinking with your heart there, because that's essentially where I was going with, it's like, I think Jalen Mills is probably going to be the starter. Let's be real here. But I love what Chuck said about, he's our future. So look forward to what he's going to bring to the table. But like he said, there's no preseason. Like you said, only 8 freaking practices. So, let's settle down here. We're all putting pressure on this kid to be the next Brian Dawkins already. Yeah. And, it's like, he's kind of did it himself with the Wolverine cleats, the damn Eagles tattoo already. Like, I love it, man. But let's bump the brakes. But yeah, I love what both of you guys had to say.
Absolutely. Yusef brings up a good, interesting point. He says if Seattle resigns Clowney, I think they win the NFC. And he also asked earlier, do we think Seattle is in win now, or is it Super Bowl or bust for them? And I think with Seattle, I think it is. I think it's, if they don't make the Super Bowl, I mean, considering that they've added so much talent at the skill positions, and they made this trade, you're giving away your 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years, or your first-round picks for the next 2 years. Okay, I don't care how bad you've been at first-round picks. You gave a substantial assets away, and you gave up Bradley McDougald, who was solid. He is a very solid safety. He's no bum. So the Jets also got a decent replacement for Adams that can just plug in and be decent. So I think for Seattle, enough is enough. I think with Seattle, their issue is in talent. It's 2 things for me. It's O-line, and it's Pete Carroll's reluctance to pass and put the game on Russell Wilson's shoulders more. He is so reliant on the run. He wants to run when you've got the second best quarterback in the league right now in Russell Wilson. I don't know if he's trying to make up for his blunder in the Super Bowl where they didn't run with Marshawn, but man, there comes a point where you really got to just stop running and just let Wilson loose. So those are my. I don't think Seattle, even if they get Clowney, is the NFC favorite, but they are up there, and it starts with Russell Wilson. But man, Carroll's got to let him loose.
I mean, for too long, it's been Russell Wilson and the Pips. It's just been Russell run around. I know what the shit's going on. Just make something happen. But now when you look at it, I mean, you got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf as a 1 and 2 wide receivers. You got Chris Carson. I know he has a lot of injury history. But you also got Rashard Penny coming back as well. For me, to answer Yusef's question, I don't even think this was Super Bowl mode. I think this was let's win the NFC West. Because you had to realize you have to get out of that division. They're going to beat themselves up. When you got San Fran, LA, and listen, man, don't sleep on it. Listen, you got Nuke in Arizona. You got Kyler in his second year. The defense was all right last year. Now it's coming back. Better O-line. I mean, the NFC West it's to use good old JR. It's a slobber knocker, man. They're gonna beat themselves up. So whoever I can see, if we do have a full season, which I hope we do, you can see them coming out in the division and probably getting through the wild card round. But I can see one of the powerhouses out of the NFC West losing in that division round because they're just going to be a weathered team. I mean, because you go through that grueling 6-8 games through that division.
You lose them? What we got?
No, I was done.
Okay, sorry. I might have like that. Might have been mine.
It like skipped out a little bit, so it threw everybody
I
off.
was like,
Bad,
what?
my bad.
I was like, did he miss or is it me?
Not your fault. Yeah.
Oh man, we're all having reception issues apparently tonight.
We're getting weathered here. Yeah.
Oh, God. All right, but yeah. So guys on the chats, in the chat rooms, definitely keep bringing the comments about the trade. Give us your thoughts. Your thoughts on Seattle, on the Jets. I mean, the Jets are a whole nother topic. But hey, I mean, so far, I think former assistant to Howie Roseman, Joe Douglas, who's now the GM over there in New York. So far, since he got the job, I think he's been doing a very good job. I think he's doing very well. And the several Jets fans that I have that are friends of mine, they like what he's done so far. And I keep reiterating to them, like, he's no slouch. He's good at managing a team. And this, like, him and Howie have had their questionable picks over the past few years with us. But I liked what he did in the draft for the Jets so far. So far, so good. The coach there, though, that's another topic for another day. But
the news that came out that this has been going on for 2 weeks. 2 weeks they've been trying to work on this trade. So when Adams is harping, like they already knew. I think Joe Douglas had made the decision, like, we're not going to pay this cat, not what he wants, and he relies on his draft skills, man. I mean, the dude can draft defense, you know what I mean? So that you got to rely on. And the fact is, regardless of the picks, you got a starter back. When do you see that in the NFL? Where you see starter for starter for the same position, starter for starter? I mean, obviously Bradley McDougall isn't no Jamal Adams, but he's not. He, like Chuck said, he's not a slouch. He's not a slouch at all by any means.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right, guys. So let's transition that. We talked about the secondary. So let's talk about now the team overall. It's heading into training camp. Players reported today. I think we saw, what was it, this morning? No, yesterday. Yesterday, we got the one video of Carson Swole looking all buff in his white tee, walking into NovaCare Complex. And he definitely put on some muscle. Now, whether that's from the gym or that's dad muscle carrying all the diaper bags and everything, we don't know, but he does look heavier. He does look like he's bulkier. We'll see how that plays out this season. Compared to last season, he slimmed down. So we'll see, how the added muscle will do. But we've got a lot to talk about. But the first thing I want to get into was the breaking news that we just heard earlier today. Marquis Goodwin opting out of this season to be with his family and not risk playing and contracting COVID. For those who don't know, I mean, it's been well documented, but in case you don't know, Marquis Goodwin, him and his wife have had a history of, how can I word it?
Unsuccessful
births, unfortunately. And it's whenever I go back and I read their story and get touch on it and let other people know that might not know about it and explain it. Mm-hmm. It's a hard subject to really grasp because I can't even imagine. Like, Pete, you've got kids. Jimmy, I don't know if you do or not. My wife is expecting, but being a father to be now and just imagining what it would be like to lose not one, but three kids,
Yep.
2 pregnancies. That's something I will never be able to fully comprehend because that's some heartbreaking stuff. Heartbreaking stuff. And I've always rooted for Marquis Goodwin ever since I found out about that. Ever since I, read up on their story when he caught that touchdown pass for the Niners against the Giants. The day that his kid died, he played that game and he caught that touchdown pass. I mean, I still get choked up watching every now and then. Like,
Yep.
I've been rooting for this guy ever since then. And when they lost their twins, another heartbreaking moment for them. And it shouldn't be a surprise if you know his story, why he wanted to opt out. Him and his wife finally have, they're a child. I forget, is it 5 months now? 5 months old?
I think
Something
so.
like that.
It was another boy too. I
Yeah,
think if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
5 months. So newborn, and he doesn't want to risk it, and that's completely understandable. From a football perspective, for me, I'm upset because I was really looking forward to him playing this year on the Eagles. I really thought he would have made the roster. I know a lot of people aren't too high on him, but I like his chances to make the roster. But what are your quick reactions on Marquis Goodwin? And even if you want to touch on all the other players that have been opting out, I know the Patriots have had a bunch, including Dante Hightower. What are your thoughts on these players? And I think they have until August 3rd to decide. All these players opting out for this season. And what do you think? Do you think if enough players do it, it's going to have some big ramifications in terms of the start of the season? I don't know. A lot of people have been throwing that out. But give your quick thoughts. We'll go with Pete first.
I mean, ramifications depends on who's the team. I mean, I'm not going to fault anyone for opting out due to this. It's not necessarily because they may have an underlying issue or they may be at risk, but when we're talking about a football player, you're talking about, and it's not like the NBA, it's not like the bubble. I mean, they're going back home to their families in most cases. They can, and when you're an NFL player, especially if you're a prominent player, I mean, you're taking care of most of your family. You know what I mean? Your mom, your dad could be in the house, things of that nature. So I definitely won't fault anyone. But I mean, as far as just look at the shit show it's been for the MLB. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just look what single-handedly one team did. Single-handedly, the Marlins have screwed over the Phillies. Yeah, everybody that they played. Now they're up to 17 positive cases. And listen, we out here right now, we have group text messages, we have a chain, and we all sit here and talk if things not making us feel comfortable. We all have a timed event. This is a professional baseball team, $1 billion franchise. They're making a decision about knowing the fact that they have positive cases and can still continue to play and put another team in jeopardy. That's the same situation you could have with football, because guess what? In baseball, they're not touching each other. For the most part, they're not touching each other. In football, you're going to hit a bitch. Like, there's bodily contact with force. With force. So I can't fault anyone for opting out. I mean, we haven't seen, I think Dante Hightower may be like the biggest thing that we've seen opt out, especially what he means to his team, especially in that defense now with how many players they lost. So it really depends.
Kevin will argue Dan Vitale. we'll get into that later.
But Kevin's not here to defend himself as usual lately. But no, Kev feel like bro man from the 5th floor on Martin. That bitch just show up when he wants. But no, it's a real like Marquis Goodwin opting out. I get it. I mean, does it change my outlook on the season? Not really. Does it give back end players a chance? Oh yeah. Quez Watkins. We already know John Hightower. So now these guys, you open up a spot. You made it tough on yourself for whatever reason. I think it will still continue to be a trend because we really don't. We see the player. We don't know what that player has at home, who he has at home, what's going on. So if they feel as if, hey, you know what, I just can't risk it. And I think, are these guys opting out? They're not getting any penalty from it, right? Their contracts, like it's like a skip a year or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think
for season.
yeah, so it's so I mean, it's not really any penalty, and hopefully they're smart with the money. They can sit back and chill. Now, if they make this decision, and you guys can educate me to this, if they make this decision and say the numbers start to get better, can they then return to the team once they make a decision to opt out, or this is it? They can't return. So once they opt out, no matter what happens, they're okay.
Done.
Wow. So I mean that would weigh even heavier on me if I was in that position.
Mm-hmm.
If I was, because that's like saying, okay, if a miracle happens somehow, there's a breakthrough of medicine, then I can't come back now. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a calculated risk, but I can understand why they're taking it. And like you said, I don't think it's done. And there's something to be said about the Patriots though. As we wonder, because they have 6 players or 7 that they've had the most players to opt out. So what does Belichick know that we don't know?
Yeah.
Always
something. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, so now I completely understand, just like Pete was saying, any of these guys with going home, it's not just you, it's your family members. It's you got to be selfless in this situation, and some of these guys have to be a little bit extra cautious because of having a child or just whatever the case may be. Totally get it. So for people to be calling for these guys' heads or it's selfish, like I hate seeing that online. That's ridiculous. But I get it. Totally do. Any of these guys that do that, you totally understand that this is very scary times. We're a lot of questions still going on as to when we're going to have any kind of vaccine, if people want a vaccine, if people, it's so ridiculous at this point that, it's hard to even talk about. But when it comes to football, it's tough because you expect him to come in. It's like, okay, we know Desean Jackson gets hurt a lot, so you're hoping that a speedy guy like him with Olympic speed, he would come in and help out. But, we drafted Jalen Reagor for a reason, and now this ensures that he is going to get plenty of playing time. Yeah. And as Pete had mentioned, these back end guys, I did a 53-man roster yesterday and had talked about it, and Marquis Goodwin was on there. And I felt, we'd keep 6 receivers. I think I'll still go with 6. And you just, if you're taking him off, put Quez Watkins on there. But I think Greg Ward and Hightower, those guys are all be competing, but I think they make the team now rather than it being maybe 5, Now I think you definitely keep 6 because you're like, oh, son of a. So, you got to be prepared because you don't know if another guy is going to get corona or opt out or what's going to happen. So we need depth, but also you got to be down to 80 players. We're still at 81. I don't know how that works. We have to get rid of somebody. Alshon being put on the IR, the PUP list, that doesn't, he still counts against our roster. So I don't know what they're doing there, but I think I've seen Taylor Gabriel was mentioned. I saw Mike Kay talk about that earlier today. I don't really think we add anyone just because of, now I don't think it would be necessarily against our cap because a guy like him isn't going to cost that much, and it's only the top 51 contracts on your cap. So, but I don't think we need to add anyone. I think it's time to see what we have in these young guys. So, I like the name, but I think we're going to be okay anyways without him, man.
Yeah,
but I'd be surprised if we have a season. I'm going to be honest with you, 100%.
Yeah,
I mean that's a conversation definitely we're probably all going to be having within the next few weeks as it gets closer. If the season is going to happen or not, or even be delayed. But to touch on the Taylor Gabriel point, like I'm with you in the fact that like I don't think we need to. I'd be perfectly fine with just going as is. Just go with the guys we have because I do like the young guys we do have. But at the same time, if we do sign him, why not? Like he's so fast. He's still fast, and he's not a bad player either. I think I'd say he's along the caliber of Goodwin. I like Goodwin a little bit better, but I think Gabriel, is still a solid player that has a run. He was his abilities were not able to be taken advantage of in Chicago because of a certain quarterback there.
For sure.
Let's
Mitchell.
Mitchell.
Pat Mahomes.
By Mitchell. So that's that. But I did want to, even though Brodo isn't here, I did want to real quick. He has a message that he wants to give. He wants to share with all of us to make his presence known, and more specifically, make his presence known to one Kevin Godwin and Kevin Godwin's love for Mr. Dan Vitale. But I'm just gonna play this message. Hopefully, you guys can hear it. It's an audio message he left for me to play on the show. So here it is with Brodo.
What happened, Kevin? Oh, down go the Patriots. 6 of them. 6 of them, Kevin. Headlined by your guy. What happened to Mr. Vitale? Oh, Kevin. You can't run from me forever, Kevin. Oh, and one other thing. Now that Mr. Goodwin's out for the year, shut up, radio person. I gotta mute you. It now confirms that my guy, Mr. John Hightower, if you play on a blue field, you can play anywhere. He's a lock for the season. Sure. You can't run from me forever, Kevin.
Hold on.
Kevin, I don't give a damn if you're not on the show tonight. I don't give a damn if you're not on the show next week. I'm going to make it my personal goal, my personal game over the next 3 weeks while I'm going to torment the hell out of you. Oh, I like this song. I'm going to torment the hell out of you, Kevin.
Yeah.
6 players out in a day. John Hightower.
That might be the most evil laugh I've ever heard him have, Mr. Breno have. But I mean, I can't wait for next week if he's on and if Kevin's back on. Oh, he's not gonna let Kevin breathe. Oh man. But that is Mr. Brodo. Like I said, hopefully he's back next week on the 1s and 2s. But like I said, Hightower, he does like Hightower. I remember that before the draft. I did like the Hightower pick. Now, I mean, if we're talking about the guys that got cut, there were 2 notable names. I mean, everyone else was predictable. 2 notable names, though. Desean Hall, and then, who was, I think, placed on our pup list, too. I'm not – some kind of list. I forget what it was. But Desean Hall and Trevor Williams, who a lot of people said could compete for a depth spot at corner. So does either name surprise you any bit? Because for me, it doesn't really. Maybe Trevor Williams, but with Desean Hall, I always felt like he was a little bit overrated by the fans because of his success during the preseason. I mean, I thought he was an okay depth guy, but nothing too special. But Trevor Williams is more of like, okay, maybe he can surprise. Maybe he can surprise people and provide depth. But, I mean, personally, I don't think either one is that critical or that surprising. But I don't know. Did either one of you think that Trevor Williams or Desean Hall had good chances of making the roster?
No. I mean, they probably had a chance to make the roster. I actually want them to get under 80 because I want them to sign somebody before they sign Taylor Gabriel. His initials is EG, and
Everson Griffin. I know, Jimmy. Haven't you been saying
we're on the same boat?
I mean, dude, like that's the.
I'll sink in this boat with you, Pete.
Yeah, man. Listen, this Giddy, like I don't care. I don't want any to go to any division or conference rival. You need the help on the D line. You need as much D line as you can. That's what keep them bodies fresh. It's an older player. You see, the last time we brought in an older stud defensive lineman with Chris Long, we had a parade. So I mean, listen, it sucks though because of the cap situation. But listen, man, it's better than any. If you look at anything now, if Jacksonville picks up the phone and starts trying to negotiate with the Eagles again, in order to get somebody like Ngakoue, you're going to have to give up a big contract just to take on another one. So you're going to have to make a strength weaker to bring in to make another position of strength. So you might as well add EG for the low, and let's get this thing cracking, man. Let's get this thing cracking. But Desean Hall, Trevor Williams, I'm not shocked. I wish there was one more person. Two more. You said we're at 81 now. Two more people. I don't care who they are. Gotta go. Gotta go.
Yep. I'm with you on that. I love it. Everson Griffin. Last night when I was doing my 53-man roster, I had to bring him up because I won't stop talking about it because just like you said, the year we won a Super Bowl, brought in Chris Long, Michael Bennett. I mean, they weren't coming in to start. You know, they were older, they were veterans, but they provided that depth, man. And third and fourth quarter, baby, they were coming in and eating. So I'm with you on that. I didn't think Daeshon Hall was a surprise. I had actually had him on my pup list for the 53 because he got hurt on the last play last year. So I imagine that happening. It was a smart move by them, to cut him. Once he cleared waivers, they just put him on the pup list. So now he actually doesn't count against our roster. Whereas someone like Alshon, who just got put on the pup, not cut and then put on, he actually counts still. And so does Brandon Brooks. So that's some interesting stuff, but I was not surprised by it. And Trevor Williams, I know a lot of people, like you said, were high on him. I was not one of those people. I think that there's 6 guys right now competing for a job, whether that's 6 of them that make it or 5. That's to be seen. But, I mean, you got Slay, Nickel, Roby Coleman, Sidney Jones, Avonte Maddox, Rasul Douglas, and Cravon LeBlanc. I think those 6 right there are competing for the jobs, and I'm excited about that competition. So I wasn't surprised by this at all.
Yeah, I don't think I was. And I pretty much agree with you. If we have to make 2 more cuts to get Everson Griffin, why the hell not? Why the hell not? I like in terms of like defensive end, I know a lot of people liked Hall even like last year. They liked Hall better than even Josh Sweat, but I was never one of those people. I'm a Josh Sweat truther. Maybe one of the ones you think more the ones bigger ones you'll find. I think the only thing holding him back is the knee issues. So they always have to monitor him, and maybe that limits his playing time for his whole career. Maybe he's just a situational pass rusher. But I think his athletic ability, it's really starting to shine, and he's starting to get the technicalities and the nuances of the position more, knowing how to use counter moves and all that to complement his athletic ability. I think he can be a really, really, really good pass rusher, a speed rusher that we absolutely need on the edge, because Barnett's not a speed rusher, and neither is, we know, Brandon Graham is not. But with Sweat and even the guy Avery, they can really provide speed off the edge that we haven't had in the past couple of years. So I'm more so high on that, and that's why I don't think we necessarily needed Hall. And then in terms of Trevor Williams, I agree with the names you have. I still am pulling for Sidney Jones, as it might be foolish of me to still hold out hope, but I still think there's a chance he breaks out. So kind of hoping for him. So neither move surprises me. But I mean, as we move forward too, though, with no preseason games, like we keep saying, that there are going to be some ramifications for that. And to me, the biggest one is that a lot of these rookies, especially these undrafted ones, they're not going to get their chance really to really show what they can do. And if you guys have followed my work, you guys know I'm big on Michael Warren. I really thought, I really wanted them to draft him 5th or 6th round, but they, they were able to sign him as an undrafted free agent. I think, he really has what it takes to be a decent rotational running back in the NFL. I don't think he'll ever be a lead guy, but someone you can plug in and get a few touches, for short yardage, and who is also versatile. I think he has some really decent upside. But now with no preseason, that really hurts his chances. Other people were like Adrian Killens, even if it meant as like a returner, his chances now go down the drain or take a big hit. There are wide receivers and other guys So I mean, like, is there anyone else? I mentioned Michael Warren. Anyone else on the bubble that now you're worried of is not going to get a legitimate shot at the roster, or at least like the starting roster now with no preseason games? Or do you think there are any other ramifications of no preseason that are going to negatively affect not only the Eagles but any team in the league? Like that's huge. There's no games, so what are your thoughts? Who do you think is going to get affected the most?
I love what you said, Michael Warren. That's my guy I had on my list of running backs making the team, and I was like, I'm putting him there because I love him so much. But honestly, I'm going to be real with you. His chances are slim. So I like what you said there. I would have said the wide receivers, but now with Marquis Goodwin opting out, I probably would have said someone like Quez Watkins, but I think his chances just made it a lot higher now. But this is really going to hurt some of these guys that would have had a chance maybe at linebacker, like a Dante Olson or a Sean Bradley. They might have to start off on the practice squad, whereas, they could have maybe made the roster with a little bit of chance. But you talked about some of the ramifications. I think one of the things, someone brought up to me the other day, they're like, oh, this is great. We already lost Brooks. At least we don't have a preseason. We won't get any more injuries. First off, there could definitely be injuries in training camp, but with them not being able to knock any of this rust off, I know Doug said he's going to have scrimmages that are game-like, and so it doesn't matter. You're not playing a game. So these guys are going to get thrown in the fire week 1 against the Washington football team, and we better pray that these guys don't get hurt. I think the injuries are going to go up, and I'm scared as hell. So that's one of the things I see happening this year that we don't want to talk about, really.
No. Those who should not be named at all. Injuries that will not come up here. But
and Jalen Hurts would be another one. I think he's going to get. That's really bad for a guy that was supposed to come in as a backup QB. Sorry, Pete.
No, you're fine. I listen. One thing about the Jalen Hurts, real quick. His deal is super low, and just in the event if we ever need you, I just know you won't commit a lot to the cap. So I will say that. But yeah. With that being said, I mean, Jimmy, you kind of hit it on the head when Chuck said, "Who do you think?" Any damn bubble linebacker, bitch. Because to me there aren't any linebackers on the bubble. You need if they got an LB next to their name, bitch, they need to be on the team. You don't know what you got.
Yeah,
you don't know what you have. I mean, if you look at defensive end, I mean, yeah, I get it. I'm not a big fan of Derek Barnett, but like you said, we got a Sharif Miller. We have a Josh Sweat behind him. So you got guys that you may have some faith in to be able to perform. At linebacker, I can't say the same. I can't. I mean, dude, you got Duke Riley. You got the kid everybody loves. His name is escaping me.
Singleton?
TJ Edwards.
Oh, yeah.
Edwards. You got the kid that we just got in from
James
LA. Brown. You got Bradley.
Gary.
You
your favorite.
I wish Nathan Gary could lose like 20 pounds, bro. Lose 20 pounds and then be a safety. Do that.
You mean what he was in college?
He was, yeah. If he could start tackling, I would be okay with him. I mean, he just needs to start tackling, man, but I'm with you.
Yes, I mean, that something like that. But, I mean, that's really the only other position I see. Obviously, like you said, those that will not be named, hopefully those don't happen at all to any position. You already had them take out Brandon Brooks. But, I mean, I just want to see – I don't know how you create an environment in this shortened season, in this shortened training camp, in 8 padded practices, no preseason. How do you create an environment to where you're really going to see the best of these guys on the field?
Yeah.
Like how, as a coach, this is why it's so key for our coaching staff. I understand we've had a lot of changes in offense and some on defense as well, but the main figureheads are still here. So that's why I think it's such a positive, such an advantage for a team like the Eagles, because a lot of your starting 22 for the most part is returning. So you know what you kind of have. So you have your foundation of what you want to do as a football team on both sides of the ball, and now you just kind of got to fill in those little soft wrinkles. And you have a quarterback who should be higher on the top 100 list than what he was. I don't even know where he was at, but I'm seeing names that was
wasn't on there.
He wasn't on it.
No. It's a joke.
Somebody tripping, bro. Somebody's over
Oh,
there,
absolutely.
Tony Montana, at the end of Scarface with a mountain of you know what with the booger sugar, and just said, "I'm gonna leave once off this list." Did Tannehill make the list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like 67 or something.
Hey, we're going to get into the NFL 100 in a second. I definitely want to talk about it once we finish it up this talk. But you know who made the list at 43? Mr. Jimmy G.
Oh, God.
Kev's boy. I'm like, what? I mean, I like Jimmy G, but 43, I had some of these things. He was even ahead of Dak. I'm like,
he was ahead of Dak?
He was ahead of Dak. I'm like,
Wow.
come on, man.
Yeah, they're tripping.
Good. Come on. Like, well, we'll get into I want to have that as another topic in a little bit. But, I mean, to what you said about the linebackers, man, like, especially with no preseason, it's tough. And, you know, Michael DeAndre asked a good question. I know Taylor's a rookie, but what do you think he can do? I think my thoughts on Davion Taylor are well documented already. But to reiterate, I wanted Davion Taylor in that draft. I even mocked him in my mock draft that I put out on atdradio.com. I had him mocked in my article. I just had him mocked 2 rounds later. Not in the 3rd round, in the 5th. Like, he's a project because he doesn't have any experience. Like, he barely has any. I think a good reference, I mean, I haven't done much. I haven't put out a video of him, a video breakdown of him. But if you want a really good detailed one, if you look on his Twitter, even on the Eagles website or the Eagles YouTube, Fran Duffy just did one of him and one of his games in college to highlight Taylor's athleticism, his range, his ability to know leverages and everything. The issue with Taylor is processing because, again, not a lot of experience. So the processing and knowing his keys are going to be key, no pun intended, but also the play strength. I mean, he's light. Even for an outside linebacker, he's still light. Like, you would think he's a safety. So he needs to add a little bit of muscle, and I think that's not going to happen, obviously, till next offseason when there's a weight program for him. So my expectations are for Taylor this season are pretty much none. I don't have any expectations for him. I think he's going to be much like Josh Sweat the rookie year, where he barely gets playing time because he's just not ready. But I do think the ceiling is very high for him if he can figure it out, if he can learn and develop, give him time. I think 2 years down the road, if he develops, it has a good coach in front of him to teach him. You're talking about someone with serious athleticism, playmaking ability. So I am very high on Taylor, just not for this year. I think we can pretty much count him out of the discussion. But, in terms of the linebackers we have, man, like, it's dry. I think we might have the worst linebacking core in the league. They just don't prioritize it, and it sucks. I mean, I'm not someone who thinks that you need a superstar linebacker to be a contender. I don't think it's a prime position in this league anymore. But I think you still need at least solid players there. Your defensive line can't rely on your defensive line to do all the work for your linebackers to just make their job easier. Like, they have to be able to make plays. And people, I know you guys agree with Nate Gary. Like, people love the highlight plays that he made, the very few of them, but they don't focus on the horrible mistakes he made that don't get shown. Like, it's really hard watching him on tape. It's like, why are you running the wrong direction? Like, it's literally he's running the wrong direction on a lot of plays. His reaction his read and react is not very good at all. Jatavis Brown, I don't know much about. I just know he had 100 tackles 2 seasons ago. So maybe there's something there, but I mean, like, it's Duke Riley was a starter, or like he was a 3rd round pick by the Falcons, so he has athleticism too. But again, they let him go obviously for next to nothing. And TJ Edwards, we know that even though he showed really, really good early down and run stopping ability, we also know that he's not a coverage linebacker whatsoever. You cannot put him in coverage. He has no range. So it's really, really bare, our linebacking core. So you got to hope at least one person steps up. Because I think that if you at least have one decent starter, like, okay, at least we have one. But right now, it's very possible we have none. It's very possible we don't have any good linebackers. And that's worrisome. That's definitely worrisome.
Prism just had a name out there. It's Darren Lee, ex-first round. I think it was a first or second round pick by the Jets. Fast. That's a guy. I mean, if you look at what we had in the Super Bowl, our starting linebackers were Nigel Bradham, Michael Kendricks, and Darnell Ellerby.
Najee good.
Najee good.
This is why it's key to go get Everson Griffin, because you need to make your defensive line deeper, because you know you have shit at linebackers. I mean, that's what we don't want I don't want the same defense, the same rotation of defensive line guys have to always carry the load. But that's why you get a shit ton of them, because you know you're not going. And the saddest thing about the linebacker position is that they know they're not going to invest in it. They know they're not going to develop a lot and devote a lot of time to it. And yet they still, for whatever reason, they let the good ones go. LJ Fort.
Oh my God.
Ken Flajoe, he sounds like a soup out of Olive Garden. He should have been fired right as soon as LJ Fort got his extension in Baltimore. They should have and fired him. Exactly. I don't know what they didn't see. You give me LJ Fort, TJ Edwards, and Jatavius Brown, I'm happy. We don't have this problem. You cross that off your board. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree.
I love Davian Taylor. Chuck had mentioned, having him much later in his mock. Yeah, it was a little bit of a reach, but it was something that kind of helped. It was something that helped me, honestly, that we drafted Davian Taylor, because right before that, we all know that we drafted Jalen Hurts, and we were all still reeling. It was like, this isn't happening, right? Like, I'm walking around. I didn't know what was happening in life. So we picked Davian Taylor. I get punched in the face again because I'm like, you finally draft a linebacker. Now you're reaching for one. Okay. Yeah. But I went ahead and I did myself a favor, because I was like, I'm going to get really pissed. I really was. So I was like, I'm going to watch some tape on Davian Taylor, and I'm going to try to hopefully get happy. And I'll tell you what, I got pretty damn excited because, unfortunately, we have to say, like, we're hopeful that he turns into this guy. But honestly, he does have a very high ceiling, like Chuck said. He's got raw talent, man, that you can't teach. He's got speed. He hits hard, but he's got a lot to work on as well. So don't really see him making an impact this year. But in a year where we need somebody, maybe he does. I think he could definitely find himself a job. I think he will as a third-round pick. But on special teams, maybe that doesn't help out guys like Duke Riley or Singleton. So I think that's where, how me and Pete were saying about linebacker being one of those bubble positions. It's going to be tough, because we don't know what the hell we have there. So it's like, well, I guess you kind of go with what you do know, right? So that's scary, because we know what we have. And so I'm with you, man. Maybe bring someone back. I talked about last night that Bradham would be a name I'd like. Darren Lee, sure. Mark Barron. There's guys that can guys that can play in the nickel. So I think that's something that a team that plays predominantly in the nickel, you got to have nickel linebackers. It's great to have a TJ Edwards, who didn't miss a tackle last year. It's great to have a guy like Dante Olson come in as an undrafted free agent, tackling machine. But we need to be able to cover as well. It's a pass-happy league. So,
we need a linebacker that can make plays and break up passes. For sure. Maybe that's where Darren Lee comes in, because I think as a linebacker in the combine, he ran like a 4.5 or 4.4.
Oh, he's quick.
He's quick. And I mean, he may not hit for shit, but that's why, I mean, you got to have your guys that can do this and do that. You know what I mean? I've said it before. I don't know if I was on with you, Jimmy, when I said it. I would take Kendricks back before I take Bradham back.
Yeah, that was my show, man, and I totally agreed with you.
Yeah, I would take Kendricks, and I just think Kendricks, he just didn't get enough credit for what he was when he was here. I mean, he was the most athletically gifted linebacker that we had. He still may be the most athletically gifted linebacker that we've had in the past 5 years. I mean, Jordan Hicks is probably more technical. Yeah. But once again, I just gave you another player that at linebacker that's no longer here, that we probably I don't even think we offered him a contract at that point. I mean, granted, he couldn't stay healthy, but when he was right, you knew what you were getting.
Yeah.
You knew what you were getting. So
Leading tackler in the league last year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't blame them for letting Hicks walk because he was hurt almost every year, and
Sure.
no one could have predicted he would have stayed healthy for the Cardinals. I think it was just our luck,
Yeah.
But I mean, when he was healthy, I totally agree. Hicks is a baller when he was healthy. But I do agree that I think that Kendricks, in terms of being athletically gifted, he was the most athletically gifted linebacker we had over the past maybe 10, 20 years, maybe. I'd have to really look into it. But, yeah, Kendricks was – and he stepped up when we needed him to in 2017. I mean, people forget when Hicks went down, he took over that role. He took over the role at outside linebacker, and he was good. He played really well for us. So I'd be open to signing him. Darren Lee, you guys mentioned it. I think what I'm thinking is if they're just going with these linebackers, I wonder if it's a thing that they're going to really look to do a lot of big nickel or a lot of 3 safety defenses or something like that, where they're going to use a lot of these safeties that we have because, we just talked about it. They drafted Kayvon Wallace. They got Willie Parks. They moved Mills to safety. Maybe their idea is to use them at a hybrid linebacker spot. And, I mean, I can see it. That's fine. But, I mean, if it works out, it works out. And, that because, again, a lot of this league now is built off speed and coverage. And a lot of teams, base is not base anymore. It's nickel is the new base defense. And a lot of teams now use majority sub packages. Nickel, dime, 3 safety looks. In college, they have a defense specifically for 3 safeties. They're covering high. So, I mean, that is a new wave. But at the same time, you do have teams that we're facing, like the Niners, run-heavy teams, with Cowboys twice a year. When we start to face these run-heavy teams, because they exist, someone that I follow, I really respect, Greg Cosell. He always says this phrase: the league is cyclical. He's been in this business for so long. They go in any trends that go on in the league. It's a cycle. So right now we might be in a pass-happy league, but before we know it, we're going to have to start to defend the run really well. I mean, Patriots started to do it with 12 personnel. Then now they're more of a run-heavy team. They cycle through running backs. They use a fullback, Mr. Dan Vitale. They use a fullback. Teams like the Niners, they accentuate with a fullback. Right. The power running teams like the Titans, Cowboys, there are teams that still base their offense mainly on running. And so when we face those teams, what are we going to do? We're going to get run over if we play nickel and dime. That's just the truth. We need heavier bodies in there who can still be versatile enough to cover. And that's the big question mark. That is the huge question mark right now. So, hopefully someone steps up. But I don't know. That's what worries me, is that we're going to get caught against these teams that run. They're going to run it down our throat, and we won't have an answer.
You know what I think?
You said there, man.
Our front seven is like a sub. Our defensive line is the bread. But then the second level, that shit Swiss cheese, bitch. It got holes in it, bro. Every year when we get to Dallas, even in 17, dog, you can only contain somebody like Zeke for so long. You can only contain somebody like Saquon for so long. This takes me back. I hate to go back to 15 minutes ago, but this is why it's so important to draft linebackers in your division, Howie, because you got studs.
Yeah,
you have to deal with 2 times a year, 4 times a year. You're seeing Zeke and you're seeing Saquon.
Arguably, if Geis stays healthy,
if Geis is right,
he's a stud.
I mean, so you got, and then but that's a 2-headed monster because you got Geis and you got Peterson.
Yeah,
so just in your division, you have to be able to stop the run, and you should not have to rely on the defensive line to do it all the time. You should not. So that's just my thought. I mean, you pretty much kind of said everything that I could think of and how important it's going to be for this team whenever the season starts, if we have a season, and if we have a week 1 with the Washington no-name football team, that's going to be a sight to see. But I don't want to think about it. I don't know why this team does what it does sometimes. This is why, in the back of my mind, with this season, I'm just like, whatever you get out of this season, you get out of this season. But you need to play the young guys because you need to see what the hell you got.
Yeah.
If there's a season, I hate to say it, that you can be lackluster, you can just kind of just give it all to the young guys. This is it, because who knows? This whole year has an asterisk by it already. Whole year has an asterisk by it already. Yes, we play the Ravens, Don. You know this shit. Don't play stupid.
Another running team.
Play the Steelers. Yeah, exactly.
Another running team.
Oh my God, Nick Chubb, Jesus Christ.
Well, I honestly think that that's what I was alluding to a little earlier. Great point from Chuck there. When I was saying someone asked who the safeties would be, who the starter. Jalen Mills, I feel, yeah, you can put him there, but these guys are going to be used because of the sub packages, just like Chuck was saying here. You're going to see that a lot because Jim Schwartz has been chomping at the bit to really show the world what he can do with the defense. Now, because of injuries, he has been decimated. He has had to play off. Someone asked me earlier today, they're like, oh, yeah, you think he's going to get away with playing like that? And I'm like, he's not going to have to play like that. I think you miss the context to this, that Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills were getting smoked left and right. So I think that this whole new defense is going to really help things. And it sucks, though. So I completely agree with you guys. Not putting any emphasis on the linebacker sucks because you're like, oh, well, defensive end's good and corner. And it's like, dude, I don't want to have to cover up the wound. I want it to be fixed, man. Like, come on, dude. So I don't like – I love the point that you said, we're going to use safeties. We're going to – some of these corners are going to move into places where they're covering some running backs, some tight ends, really all dependent because we have bigger guys, smaller guys. We have some actual weapons that Jim Schwartz can move around based on matchups. So, like Chuck said, who cares what you call it? Oh, baseball. Who cares, man? Like, we run a lot of nickel, but that's not even – I mean, that's predominantly what we run, but we run so many things that who knows what you'd call it, dude. So, it's beautiful to see, and I think you're going to see a lot more of it. But I'm with you guys. I've been pissed off all damn offseason about the linebacking position. And I love Pete because it seems like he's a little pissed off about the defensive end position, too. I literally want Everson Griffin so badly. And another name I forgot on the bubble thing was Joe Osman. I was really pumped about him last year. I thought maybe given a chance he'd be able to show something this year. Clock's ticking for him. I'd love to see him make the team, but like Pete said, give me Everson Griffin instead. So
yeah, because you can't like for these guys that may be on the bubble, like you literally, especially for a UDFA, you have to get in there the first practice and like literally you have to do something to get noticed.
It's like going to jail.
So,
you gotta punch someone. Get your name out
bring it to him. You know what I mean? Because you may not get another opportunity.
Truth.
You know what I mean? Or just make those guys that may not have the best work ethic be forward with the best work ethic because this is the only time you're going to have. But also, you may get a gem of a season this year. Then next year, when everything kind of gets back to normal, we hope, then you're going to slack off again. So. This season is like a box of chocolates, bitch. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Oh, you really don't. You really don't. And I think with the go ahead.
I was just gonna say to his point, like think about the weird effects, the things we're not even thinking about. What's it gonna do to someone like Desean Jackson when he can't look to the crowd and throw the ball and freak out? He feeds off that. So sorry for interrupting.
It's gonna be weird. No, you're fine. You're fine. But yeah, I mean to the edge position, just I talked about Sweat, I talked about Avery. Behind them, there's really no one that really instills confidence. So say if someone goes down a starter, now you're looking to one of them to be the other person on the second unit, which is important because we rotate the defensive line. So what are you gonna do? I know they have options with moving Malik to the outside, and that's great. But Malik Jackson, I think we have to remember, and he said this on an interview that I listened to weeks ago, he would prefer to be an interior lineman on the second unit as opposed to playing the edge on the first unit. That's how much he prefers interior as opposed to the edge. Now, is Schwartz, is he going to say no if Schwartz does put him there on the edge on some reps? No, he's not going to say no, but I think it just shows that his comfort level is more on the interior. It's not like we can play him on the edge full time. So depth all of a sudden is now an issue. And so like that's what I would like Everson Griffin. Even if we brought in Vinny Curry back for depth purposes, I wouldn't hate it. I just, that's the thing. And I'm not the biggest believer in Derek Barnett. I know some people are, but I think he's pretty much hit his ceiling. I think he is what he is at this point. But maybe he'll surprise me a little bit. I don't know, but I just don't see it. So, our interior is elite, could be the best in the league, but on the outside, it's more of like, okay, it's decent, it's good, solid, but we're one injury away from being subpar, and that's the question mark. Prism had a really funny comment. Dan Vitale opted out because he didn't want to have to try to live up to Kevin's expectations. He was afraid of letting Kevin down. Could be true. Everyone is. That's
Prism always with the great points here.
Yes. Going from the defensive side to the offensive side. We talked about concerns on the defensive side. I think that we also talked about wide receiver, so we touched on that. I think we all know how we feel about running back and quarterback, and tight end is pretty much set. I think the big question mark on the offensive side now still remains Jason Peters, and we talked about him last week or a couple weeks ago, Pete. I've heard now Trey Thomas speak on it and in an interview, and I've heard Todd Harriman speak on it in an interview. And they both have conflicting reports, kind of. Not really conflicting, but they said similar things, but one was more positive, Harriman's, whereas Thomas was a little bit more skeptical. So, but they made similar points, and they both emphasized that they think it's going to be a big challenge for Peters to move to the inside. But if there's any tackle in over the last 20 years that's going to be able to make this move, it's Jason Peters, because he's smart enough. And I agree with that. I think I've said that I've had my concerns about the move. I didn't really think he was going to do it. He surprised me that he agreed to do it, to make the switch. But it's one thing to go from the outside to the inside, and it's a whole other thing also to go from left side to right side. So he's really making the biggest change you could make for a lineman. I still remain, in terms of my confidence, I'm still at about like a 6 out of 10. Like, I'm confident he can do it, but I gotta see it. It's like a almost halfway confident. But has your opinion changed at all? And does the offensive line remain the biggest issue on the offensive side of the ball?
I don't think for me. One of the things we talked about before this move was made was, I had Tom on, I had you guys on. We definitely all talked about this plenty of times, but it's like my thought process was bring JP back. That way not to replace Andre Dillard, because I think Andre Dillard's going to do well. I think just in case anything were to happen, you have that. And then in case Matt Pryor wasn't doing well, maybe you could be teaching JP the right guard position. They threw me a curveball. I did not see them putting him as a starting right guard, like Chuck's just said. It's from going to tackle the guard, okay, yeah. But from left side to right side, first off, the right guard has way more responsibilities than the left side, and I think if anyone can handle it, it'll be JP. But it's a pretty challenging job. So not just with the muscle memory, his body and everything. It's a whole plethora of things. So I'm with you. I'm a little concerned myself, probably around the 6 to 7 out of 10. Hall of Famer, sure. Guy that was a tight end that moved to right tackle, then the left tackle. Now he's here. Love the guy's story. And I love his locker room leadership. That's the thing that makes me so excited about that pickup, to be honest with you. You lose a guy like Brooks. You're having a weird season. There's no fans or anything to pump you up. Who better to pump you up than JP, the bodyguard? So I'm excited about it, man. I love to have him back, but I'm concerned. I am. But look, if something's not going right, now you got that depth, right? You got Matt Pryor, who can now essentially do what we thought was going to happen anyway, and say something happens to Dillard. Well, now you move JP to left tackle and you bring Pryor in right guard. So I like adding depth, but I think maybe they just gave him the starting job just so he'd actually come back, and if he sucks, pull the rug,
Yeah. I mean, to answer John Lynn's questions real quick, I mean, because he plays football, I don't know why they drafted him. There's so many other players.
Redshirt.
Yeah.
I hated that pick. I did not like that pick at all.
It's weird.
Me either. For me, in terms of my confidence level, I'm actually slightly more confident because I was listening to Ross Tucker on a pod, and he was there in Buffalo when JP was drafted as a tight end. And he remembers the practice where he was 330 pounds as a tight end. They said he was he was on kick team. He had a play in the preseason, and then left tackle went down and said, "Let's put him in left tackle." His technique was raw as shit, but he was shutting everybody down. And he said within 14 seconds, he has been better at the left tackle position than I've been in 15 years of playing football. Yeah. So with that being said, I mean, we all know the kick slide. He tries to get an early start. He doesn't have to do that now. He can just boom and engage. Obviously, it's a different hand that's in the ground. But like the speak what Jimmy said as well, I mean, that's one of the key things from this move that I was preaching. If Dillard doesn't work out or Dillard goes down, bringing JP back not only gave you depth and probably made you better if he does work out, pan out, but he gives you versatility as well.
Absolutely.
For me, but for the offensive side of the ball, my biggest concern is Carson. It's like I can't I like in this day and age, in this season, and what we have behind him. Oh my God, Carson, please! This ain't the year to get hurt, baby.
And he has a baby, so please don't opt out. Oh God,
like you know what I mean? Yeah, no, I can't. I mean, and then you said he put on the muscle. Like, there's a point where you can get too big, bro.
True.
You can get too big. I mean, I want you lean, I want you muscular, but you ain't see Brett Favre walking in that bitch all yoked up, bitch. He was out there in the Mississippi with them bales of hay, bitch, and rolling with his Wranglers on, gunslinging.
I personally don't think he looks too big.
Yeah.
I think he starts to look how he was in 2017. Because he lost weight last year. I think all he did was just gain it back. So it's just like he's back to his he was always like a big guy.
He's a big bitch. He's 6'6", bro. Yeah. Like, he's not small. Like like it's one thing the Eagles do. They do not. I mean, okay, maybe Jalen Hurts, but but Nick Foles 6'6".
Yeah.
Carson went 6'6". You know what I mean? I think Sudfeld's over 6 foot. So
McNabb even was 6'5". Sudfeld was. I was like 6'4", maybe 6'4".
McNabb was built like a damn linebacker. I remember. I'll never get the image out of my head. I remember seeing him in Club Flow back in like 03, 02, and he had a velour suit on, and the bitch looked like he was like Jeremiah Trotter. I'm like, no, that's not. I mean, I said that bitch that big. That's a thick boy, yo. But
oh my God,
I mean, you don't see Mahomes. I don't even think Mahomes lift weights, bitch.
Yeah.
You just wake up with that arm like that. So, and I think Carson has it any. It's really a concern. You don't know what he's going to do. You don't know if he can stay healthy. Now, I hate to say it, but I'm more concerned with what we have behind him than losing him. Does that make sense? Because we just don't. Right.
Yeah.
Like I don't trust. I feel like we have depth that. I mean, when you look at our wide receivers. Hey, man, as long as they don't get picked up, I think we have some depth. I think we have speed for days. You even look at our running backs. You talked about Michael Warren. Let's not forget Adrian Killins as well. You know what I mean? And you also got Boston Scott, Corey Clement. You got Elijah Holyfield. You have bodies. So, but when it comes to the quarterback position, bro, I mean, you got Carson here, and then you got people who really don't deserve to be on. Yes, it is. I say it like 10 times a day. Then you really got people who don't belong on the top 250 football list. When you talk about Nate Sudfeld and Jalen Hurts, so that's my biggest concern.
I hear you, and to that point, let's make it clear: Jalen Hurts is not the backup QB this season. He really is not. It's Nate Sudfeld. Yeah. So if Wentz goes down, Nate Sudfeld is starting. So we've seen Nate Sudfeld in the preseason, and he's looked decent. He's looked, good, but that's preseason. We have not seen him in the regular season.
Right.
So I hear you. I hear that we kind of only have to hope that Wentz stays healthy. I have my good luck charm, though. I think he stays healthy. I got this the other day in our baby shower for our future kid. A Wentz onesie.
Nice.
Boy, I loved it. So I'm looking at this like the good luck charm for this season. I think Wentz
How mad will you be when Little Westbrook just gets one of those anti-gravity poops and just poops all up the back of that jersey?
Wash it good.
This is going in the dry cleaners. Like they're gonna dry clean it like 50 times over. There's no way I'm throwing this thing out. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Love it.
But I hear your concern about the backup quarterback position. That's a good point. I mean, as much as we hate to admit it, he's had his issues with injuries. Obviously, that can't be ignored. So if he does go down, even if it's for a game or two, it's like is Nate Sudfeld able to win a game for us? That's a big question mark, and we'll see. And I think if he does go down, that puts more pressure on the running back room, especially Miles Sanders. And, is Sanders able to take that next step? And, for the last topic before we move on, I think Miles Sanders, and you guys know he's my son and everything, so my thoughts on him. But we've gotten a lot of opinions on Miles Sanders lately, at least from me on Twitter. I've seen that a lot of tape guys that I follow, they don't rank him on there, and Eagles fans are upset about that and everything. I think it's a good idea we have to really be realistic about where Miles Sanders is right now and expectations. Let's address the fans and let's address all the critics out there. So Miles Sanders is going to be he's going to be the lead guy for us. There is no committee. So for all those fantasy football people that are questioning, they've always used a committee. No, Miles Sanders is the guy. He is going to be the guy this season. 2, for the Eagles fans out there, if someone doesn't rank him the top 10 running back in the league, do not take it as an insult. It's the goddamn truth. Like there are so many good running backs in the league. Miles Sanders is not in the top 10 right now. He's not a superstar yet. Okay, his ceiling is high, but I'm telling you, earlier on in the season, we can't remember he was getting blasted by everybody because his vision was horrible, bounced everything outside, and that was the issue in Penn State. Even I noted that. I had him as my RB2 in the draft behind Josh Jacobs, but even I said this guy has not played a lot. His vision is bad, so it took most of the year for him to progress in that area. But even though he did progress, it went from like awful to like adequate. Like by the end of the year, his vision was adequate, but it still is not where you want it to be ideally. So Miles Sanders still has a little work to do. Let's not front. Let's be honest about it. He's not there yet. However, while the critics of Miles Sanders that don't believe he has that kind of upside, let me tell you, this guy was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. The only reason why you don't know about him is because Saquon transferred after Sanders committed to Penn State. And Sanders wanted to just stay in Penn State and stay there instead of transfer out. That's the reason why you don't know him, because he was behind Saquon. Any running back would be behind Saquon. So even though you don't know him, doesn't mean he doesn't have that athletic ability, that elite athletic ability. Also, he's shown that, like, you got to consider the fact that the lack of experience. You only had 1 year as a starter in Penn State. Right. That's not a lot. That's not a lot of time. Okay, there are a lot of players that 1 year of college starting experience. It's not. They're only scratching the surface. And then you go in, he gets drafted by the Eagles. He gets immediately plugged in as a starter week 1. There's growing pains. There's going to be growing pains. So Sanders, in a way, is still raw. He's only still scratching the surface. He has got elite potential. I really do believe that. So even though he's not there yet, I still think he has the ability and the potential to be maybe even the best running back in Eagles history. He has that ceiling in him. It's just a matter of let's wait and see, and let's not jump the gun. We have to see that progression first. But I already love how he's answered the issues when it comes to pass blocking. He's been phenomenal there his rookie year, and he's already shown to be a really, really good receiver. And the only thing he has to work on in that department is actually running routes from out wide or in the slot, just expanding that. So, with Miles Sanders being a big key for this season, I just want to be realistic of where he is right now and where we do project him to be. So let me know, you guys agree, disagree with whatever points when it comes to Miles Sanders.
You can go ahead, Pete.
To be honest, I can't. I'm sitting here trying to name 9 other running backs that I would take that would not have him in the top 10 for me.
I think he's around top 10 for me too.
Yeah,
you can borderline. I think I'll look up, but go ahead.
Definitely borderline.
Yeah, you got Zeke, you got Christian, Zeke, Saquon, Dalvin, Chubb, Henry,
Adam Jones, or maybe Aaron Jones. Sorry,
Jones.
Nah,
Mixon, maybe Joe Mixon's probably better back right now. Derrick Henry.
I said Henry, and then maybe and Kamara. That's 8. That's 8. Josh Jacobs and him is on the same. To me, Josh Jacobs slightly ahead, so maybe 9.
Le'Veon Bell.
Nah, he's washed up, bro.
I think Miles is better too. I think Ralphie had this. We had this argument when he was on my show.
Yeah. Well, that's because he's a fan of Michigan State. Ralphie has the most Venn diagram of fanhood and allegiance to teams I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm like, all right, maybe Lakers, but where did Michigan State come from? Who likes Michigan State for football? Who wakes up and wants to do that? Who makes that choice coherently? You feel what I'm saying? So I just don't get it. I don't understand it. But I believe if you put that's top 10, top 11, no lower than 12. There's some teams that don't even have a legit starting running back. And when I say running back, I want people to think not just running the ball. Derrick Henry obviously doesn't catch the ball well out of the backfield, but what he does he does it very, 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 very well. But Miles Sanders as an overall running back, we're talking about him. If he makes those strides, he can be a CMC light. He could be a Christian McCaffrey light. He already, to me, is a Saquon light. You know what I mean? Zeke is a different animal when the Cowboys use him the right way. He's a monster. You don't want to tackle him in the fourth quarter, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He doesn't run routes like a Sanders does. He does maybe I know Chuck has shared a video with Saquon. He was breaking people's ankles running routes, but neither one of them can blitz pick up like Zeke. Nobody in pass pro in the league when it comes to the running back position is as good as Zeke right now, and that's what keeps Dak looking like new money all year long. All year long, he looks like very rarely does Dak jersey look like it's dirty, because very rarely does he get hit to the ground. For one, he's a big son bitch, but also back there he has Zeke protecting him as well, especially on blitz pickup. So
yeah,
that's just. But I can't just say that he's not. There's no argument for him to be not to be in the top 10. For that, we kind of already missed that boat there. You know what I mean?
I don't think he's better.
Head case, I just don't think.
I thought I definitely said Aaron Jones, didn't I? I think
you did say Aaron Jones.
He's better than Miles right now.
So one of the lists that I recently that I was going off of, and then we'll get to your point, Jimmy, is by John Ledyard. He's I've been following him for a while. He's very good film guy. But he puts 1 Christian McCaffrey, 2 Nick Chubb, 3 Dalvin Cook, 4 Saquon Barkley, 5 Zeke, 6 Alvin Kamara, 7 Aaron Jones, 8 Derrick Henry, 9 Josh Jacobs, and 10 Joe Mixon. So that list, that 10 right there, I can't really argue against. I would put them ahead of. I would put all 10 of them ahead of Miles Sanders at this point. Other people mentioned Fournette. It's tough because Fournette is another one of those that isn't versatile. He's not really a pass catcher. So for me, who values receiving a lot, that already boosts him down lower than maybe most. But I mean, I guess you can make an argument. I'm trying to look for other names that people might have mentioned to see if I would pick them or Sanders. But I mean, that's a definitive 10 for me that I would put over Sanders. But again, he's teetering. Like
Right.
You start to talk about him right after those 10. And I think that's just my point is that after those 10, yeah, you have an argument, but it's hard for me to put him above any of those 10. But Jimmy, what do you think?
Yeah, I love what you guys were saying there. I think the one thing I love that you said, Chucks, was, at the end of the year, he started his pass protection. That's one of the things, you talked about him motioning out. We're a team that loves to do that with backs. So if you have a guy that can actually motion out and run some routes, but he can also come back when you see a blitz coming or something, and you can ensure that your quarterback's going to be safe, you love that. He definitely had his struggles in the beginning. He was thrown in the fire, but I thought he really progressed well. I think he is, like Chuck said, he has the capability of being one of the best, if not the best Eagles running back ever. So I really love what I see, but, you just named 10 guys right there. I feel that, definitely right now are better than him. So I'm with you. He's teetering there. Maybe on a different day, I'd tell you something differently. When it comes to fantasy, maybe we're talking a different ball game here, but when it comes to the overall back, he's working toward it. And trust me, I like the name Fournette there, but maybe a healthy Fournette 3 or 4 years ago, we could be talking. But right now, I think Sanders is definitely more versatile because he can actually get on the field. But I like Leonard Fournette. I think he was great a few years ago. It's just Miles is looking fantastic, man. I'm excited. Chuck's alluded to it earlier. He's actually, sure, they say that, there's a committee in every damn team because there essentially is. You see even the Cowboys give the ball off a couple times, but Miles Sanders is going to get the bulk of this load. He is going to be our number one back, and I think he's finally going to put himself in that top 10 conversation this year. So I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. This is an interesting. So this is tough because of what context you want to use. So Gurley on talent alone. Again, here it is, Pete. Talent alone. We're talking about just talent. Talent alone, I think Gurley obviously is the better running back right now. Gurley is when he was at his peak, his prime. Gurley, you could say he was a top 5 running back in the past 20 years. He is one of the best talents we've ever seen. However, how much have these injuries and this arthritis in his knee affected him over the past 2? I haven't studied him a lot over 2019, but I definitely now I want to look back on it. How much of that burst was taken away? How much of his cutting ability, his athletic ability was taken away because of it? It's a big question mark. I'll give Gurley the benefit of the doubt on talent alone and say he's still a better running back than Miles. But if you're talking about going forward and who would you rather invest in and have on your team, to me it's no question Miles, because I think Gurley has a year or 2 left and he's done. That arthritis in his knee is serious. And so it's tough for me to invest anything further into Gurley. So that's how I would context it. On talent alone, I'll still go Gurley, but if you're talking about investing in the future, it's definitely Sanders.
Yes.
All right. So good conversation, guys. We covered a lot of stuff in terms of projecting for training camp and previewing training camp. Any last thoughts before we transition over to Mr. Keenan Allen?
I saw Dalvin Cook's name just come up, Don. I mean, we definitely put him in the head, but we wouldn't be talking about Miles Sanders if it wasn't for those stinking Vikings, which
Yeah.
Don't
I
do
was
it,
at the
Jimmy.
draft that day.
Don't do that.
Draft that day. Yeah.
We were
Oh,
so
100%.
close. The Dalvin Cook pick is like the Russell Wilson pick.
It
One
burns.
pick away. Oh my God. One pick away from having Russell Wilson, one pick away from Dalvin Cook. Crazy.
Dalvin Cook won me a fantasy championship last year, man. I'm a big fan. I also was ready to punch through the TV when they took him. I wanted him so damn badly. I followed him very, very closely at Florida State. I thought, man, here we go. Here's the next shady. Nope. Nope. I don't really have any things. I think you guys had some great stuff, though.
Cook was up there. For me, it was Kareem Hunt. He was my guy. I was like, please. And then the Chiefs took it, and I'm like, no, Andy, why? I was really heartbroken. But, I mean, 2020 vision now, it's kind of a good thing we kind of, we're, passed up on that. But, I mean, talent alone, we all know. To me, when he was at his peak before the whole incident, Kareem Hunt was a top 5 running back in the league. He was. Oh yeah. I thought Kareem Hunt is as a rookie than Zeke. Like, yeah, to me, I like Hunt more than even Zeke did. But anyway, that's another conversation. But good stuff. You guys know I always love talking running backs. But let's move over to wide receiver. I know we touched on wide receiver last week, Pete. We discussed it a lot, talking about our top 10 wide receivers since 2000. Guys, if you haven't checked it out, check out that show. Had a really good debates again between me, Pete, Chrome. But let's talk about Keenan Allen's tweets now, because this is interesting. We talked about the best wide receivers since 2000, but let's go into kind of like a light conversation about the best wide receivers now and where we would rank Keenan Allen. If you haven't seen his tweets, Keenan Allen on Monday tweeted out, I guess this is in response to, people have been putting out rankings. I know Chris Sims put out his top 10 rankings, and then, the top 100, which we'll get to at the end of the show, the top 100 by NFL Network came out. This probably wasn't in response to that, but Keenan Allen was saying something along the lines, I don't think I have it anymore, but he was saying that, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, or he typed the wrong Chris Godwin. Goodwin. But he said he's better than all three. And he said that he's the best wide receiver in the AFC West. That's what he said. So he said, and he also did say that he's tired of being disrespected. And I think
say what?
He said he's tired of being disrespected.
No, he said AFC best wide receiver in the AFC West.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I'll just say this off the bat. When I see a lot of the way that people talk on social media and just the overall landscape and how people view wide receivers and rank them, I do think Keenan Allen is underrated. I don't think people talk about him enough because they don't see and comprehend the things that he does do extremely well. And he's definitely a top 3 route runner in the league. Some people, depending on how you evaluate it, he may be the best. So if there's a route running, like he's up there, and he's an amazing talent. He's really, really good. But I don't know if I'd say I'd pick him over any of the 3 he mentioned. But let's get into this. So let's start with Tyreek Hill. Because I personally, I don't know how high you guys have Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill to me is like wide receiver 2A in the league. I have him tied with Hopkins. I'm that high on him. So would you rather have Tyreek Hill or would you rather have Keenan Allen?
If either one of you say Keenan Allen, I'm walking the fuck off the show.
Well, you don't have to walk off. But I think it would be a little bit closer than most people think. I mean, by landslide, everybody should take Tyreek Hill. I agree with you. Right. I'd punch you in the face if you take Keenan Allen. But yes. I think the kid is super phenomenal. And like Chuck just said, I think a lot of people sleep on him. And I understand his gripe. I'm going to be real with you, man. I don't know if that's like we talked about, you go into jail first time, you punch the big guy. Yeah, we meant the guy that was big that looked like he was just fat and couldn't move. We didn't mean the guy that was jacked up and could break you in half. I think that's what we got going on here, if I'm going to be real with you. But Keenan Allen is a talented guy, and I think people are sleeping on him. So I get it. I just think he's not better than Tyreek Hill. So I won't go anywhere else. I'll let you get to that. But I think I'd take Tyreek Hill in a landslide.
Yeah. Okay, Mike Evans.
Oh.
Mike Evans.
I'm taking Mike Evans, man.
Yeah, Mike Evans.
The dude's a monster. I think he's probably the most slept-on receiver in the league.
Yes.
I think that dude. He has since 2015. I think he's like one of 3 receivers that has like it's unreal how many contested catches he has. It's like 60 some or something like. He's amazing, and I think people are tripping. And I think Keenan Allen, for you to go after him, bro, he has more touchdowns than you in a year less than you. He has so many stats, more yards. I mean, now Chuck said it. Keenan Allen is probably, if not the best route runner, one of. Okay, you got him there, but I'll be real with you. Mike Evans can do it all, dude. You picked the wrong guy to pick on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Was one more too, right? It was Godwin.
Yeah.
His teammate.
Maybe Godwin, but Godwin's ceiling is.
Whew.
You talking about somebody that can surpass. Remember what? All right, so people, let me take y'all back real quick. When Mike Evans was drafted in 2014, there was another player. Mike Evans wasn't supposed to be the man. Vincent Jackson was there, but it was surely fast before Mike Evans showed that ass what it was like. And listen, I love Mike Evans, but let's not get it twisted. Chris Godwin probably could take it to a whole nother level because I think he's just a little bit faster and maybe a little bit smaller, but also a little bit sleeker, so that way he can get in and out of those routes. When it comes to Keenan Allen, listen, man. Keenan Allen, to me, is what Emmanuel Sanders was at his prime, where his best attribute is route running. If you want to talk about footwork, Keenan Allen, you can get that. But there ain't one damn thing you can do where you running a race for somebody for 60 yards like a Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, or Chris Godwin. You ain't doing that when you was a rookie. You was never built like that. Stop kidding yourself. Whatever chip you need to put on your shoulder, go ahead and put it there. I'm glad you put it there. But also, this is going to be your first season without Phillip Rivers too.
Yeah.
Let's not get that twisted as well.
Bitch.
So let's see them stats at the end. So let's see them stats at the end of the year. I understand, but I would take Galladay too. I would take Galladay over.
What about Cortland Sutton?
Yeah. I would take Sutton over Galladay too, because I think Sutton is just the overall better shit. But like listen, man. I've already called these wide receivers wide redeemers. You know what I mean? You gotta get yourself up. I feel like wide receivers is those football players that get themselves up in the morning, sit there, put their makeup on, put their chains on, make sure they hanging right, and before they even leave the house and step on the field. You feel what I'm saying? But that's another one. Spence, listen, I think DK gonna have a monster year. If this kid finds out how to play, see, that's what you missed. That's what Keenan Allen is missing. Keenan Allen he's not understanding that, and he shouldn't, because he's playing the position. He maximized what he was given. It's just some dudes that wake up and they just fucking look like DK Metcalf and they can run in a straight line and catch a ball. But once you teach that man the ins and outs, better yet, I saw it earlier, Tyreek Hill was a running back in college, bro. He was a running back in college. Now look at him. Once you get these guys that are that athletically gifted and you teach them how to play the position, Chrome, you would like Keenan's moxie. You would. I know no one said, but he ain't better than them. He can think what he wants. Freddie, listen, we all remember Freddie Mitchell, Weapon X. Look how that turned out.
The people's champ.
God. Yeah. I did a rough, real quick rankings last week. So this is how I ranked, and I did tiers. So within each tier, I didn't put them in order. I just put them in tiers. So within the first tier, I have Julio, Tyreek, Hopkins, and Michael Thomas. So put them whatever order you want to do. It's fine. But to me, those 4 are tier 1. Tier 2, and this first guy, Pete, I know you'll like because he should be tier 1. But I have OBJ as tier 2, probably leading the pack in tier 2. And then Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. I think they're all tier 2. And then in tier 3, that's where I have Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, T.Y. Hilton, who I think doesn't have to worry. Tyler Lockett and Cortland Sutton and Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson has had bad quarterbacks his whole career. So there are a bunch of guys in tier 3 that I kind of lumped together roughly. Again, I'd probably have to do more work to come up with a definitive list. but just off the top of my head, those are names I put together. There are names that people have mentioned. You guys, DK could easily make his way into tier 2 soon or tier 3. People like Galladay. Who is it?
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp.
Even tier 3.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 if he goes back to
his. The thing about wide receivers is there's so many in the league that are so good. I talk about running backs, but there's even more wide receivers in the league, all different shapes and sizes. And, that's so tough to mention. And you guys already know, P already know, based on our draft that we had, I am super high on Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo Samuel has a really high ceiling, and could be a tier 2, tier 3 guy by the end of next year just as long as he comes back healthy. So there's that guy. Michael DeAndre says AJ Green. That's an interesting name because I have to see how he is post-injury. Because if he is the same guy as he was pre-injury, then he's a tier 2 wide receiver for me. But I have to see it first. I need to see that he still got that speed, that ability that he had before the injury. I just don't know. He was out the whole year due to that injury. We don't know exactly what he is as of right now, but he definitely is someone that I would, I would love to put in the conversation, but I left off just because he's a huge question mark.
Did you mention Stephon Diggs or Adam Thielen?
Adam Thielen, to me, he's in the range of Stephon Diggs. Like I've said over the past several years, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen were the best wide receiver combo in the league. To me, I had them as both top 10 wide receivers for the past several years. So I hate it because people slept on Diggs because Thielen got the most attention.
Yeah.
People don't realize Diggs
took off the top.
Took the top off the defense for Thielen.
Open it up for him,
Yeah. We're going to see the real Adam Thielen this year.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So
Justin Jefferson.
I love Thielen, but I mean, let's not take away from Diggs. You got all the fantasy people that rely on stats and see Thielen, he was the better wide receiver. No, man, you look at Diggs' game. Diggs is
no way.
Diggs can run by you. And
I wish we would have got him. Oh,
yes. I'll give you a couple other names that could be on the cusp of tier 3 or tier 2. Devontae Parker. You got Jarvis. Devontae Parker. I'll give you another one. Bill Middlebrook was screaming for this dude. Breakout year. DJ Chark is another one. LSU speed can give it to you all on the outside. This makes me more frustrated. So many good wide receivers, not even in the tier 3 top 10, and the Eagles couldn't get one of them bitches.
Robert Woods is out there. I like Robert Woods a lot. He's just Robert Woods is one I think a lot.
Oh, he is.
I'm gonna give you a name because I fear for your boy. I fear for Samuel. Because
I like Deebo.
The podcast that you told me to listen to, you heard what Sims was talking about with Shanahan, and then Sims was on with Lefko yesterday.
Yeah,
he loves IU.
Yeah, and I like IU too. Yeah,
but do you think that's going to minimize Samuel's role?
No,
or do you think
I think it's
going to help him.
I think it's going to help him because I think that you're going into a year now. Because last year, when Deebo really started to flourish, he had Emmanuel Sanders. So he started to learn from Emmanuel, and then once Emmanuel started to kind of like fade a little bit, Deebo stepped up, and Deebo was that number one guy. Defenses really started to key toward him, but they couldn't stop him. So it wasn't like Emmanuel Sanders was getting all the attention and opened up for Deebo. No, it was more like Emmanuel Sanders' age started to play a part, and then Deebo stepped up and became that weapon that we all saw he was. Whether as a runner running gadget plays or as a receiver, he was doing things that I didn't see him doing when I was scouting him for the draft. Running routes, catching contested catches. Like I didn't see him doing that. So he's really developed. That's why I was even higher. I'm even higher on him now than I was before. But with Brandon Ayuk, you have someone who, as long as he can develop that route running, because he's still a little raw, but he has that physical ability, I have every faith in Kyle Shanahan that he's going to develop Ayuk well. And so I think those two working in tandem are going to be absolutely deadly. If there's going to be a reason why San Fran doesn't have a Super Bowl hangover, it's because of them two. I think they're going to be huge reasons why the offense can take the next step. But I mean, like it's also very possible that the Niners do have a Super Bowl hangover. It's history says it, so we'll see.
I'll give you another name that I think can actually jump from tier 2 to possibly talks for tier 1, who I think is better than Debo. Not to say Debo isn't good. Debo is good as what he's good at. But he can't run away from people like this dude, and that's A.J. Brown. We had this conversation for numerous times.
I found a stat, but keep going.
I love A.J. Brown, man. I put it like this, Chucks. I think A.J. Brown has a higher ceiling than Samuel. Because not to take anything away from Debo, but when you got Kyle Shanahan pulling the strings, we talked about this. Kyle Shanahan right now probably can draw a play for me to get over fucking 4 yards.
He's that smart. No, you're absolutely right.
And I'm not. Yeah. So that's why I kind of agree with you with Ayuk and Samuel. I just think hopefully they still like, and it also I think helps Pettis too to have Ayuk and Samuel there, because I know Pettis kind of he's not in the best light with San Fran right now. But now you got, but now you got a guy that listen, Dante, bitch, just run straight. You run straight or you run a post. That's all we need you to do is run a post, run a 9 route, or run or maybe a corner route. But could you imagine? You got Dante Pettis on the outside, Ayuk right next to him on the inside on the left, and then you got Debo in the slot on the right. Whatever you got coming out of the backfield. Good, yeah, bro. Good night.
Yeah.
Good night. I mean, it's just too many good wide receivers in the league. Too many.
Joseph says here, San Fran threw the ball like 10 times a game. What are you talking about? Well, were you only watching the Super Bowl and the playoffs? Because toward the end of the regular season, they were passing the ball still, and Debo was making plenty of plays. And in the playoffs, when the few times they did throw the ball, Debo was the one making plays. So I think you need to go back and watch a little bit more film, rewatch some games, and then come at me when it comes to Debo, because you sound like you're box score scouting, just looking at the box score and just being like, oh, they passed the ball only 10 times. So let's be careful here. Debo was a baller at the end of the year, not just for the games where they threw it a little bit. But you say, Pete, I have an interesting stat that I saw. All right, and this makes me want to study A.J. Brown more, because I didn't really go into a deep dive with A.J. Brown. Now he's a very interesting prospect. I do really like him, so let me make that clear first. But I saw this one stat. 54% of Brown's total yards came on slants, digs, post drags, or deep crosses with play action among players with at least 50 targets. The next highest player was Brandon Cooks with 31%. So you got to factor in the fact that, and another Jay Moyer retweeted that stat and said A.J. Brown was a bit of a one-trick pony in 2019, and that trick is one many other ponies can do well, which is in breakers on play action. So will be a volatile producer unless he learns to win in more ways. Now, let's talk about what that's saying. That's saying that A.J. Brown was the beneficiary of a lot of play action passes that use crossing routes. So of course it's easy to get open there. What I think he can do though is I think he does have the ability to develop in order to win one-on-one and win against a man-on-man situations, because that's a true test of a wide receiver one. A lead wide receiver can get open and make plays in one-on-one coverage on any route. Any wide receiver can win on crossing routes on play action. I think A.J. Brown can develop into that. But if we're talking about based on what we've seen so far, I don't think A.J. Brown is there yet. I wouldn't put him in the same level as Deebo Samuel. And I think Deebo is more versatile in his skill set, just by a little bit, that's why I still think Deebo has a higher ceiling. However, again, let me preface it by saying I do like A.J. Brown still. I think he's a physical freak. Being that big and, being able to run like he does as a slot option, I need to see more in his development. And plus already right now, he's only a slot receiver in my opinion. He's only works out of the slot. Debo can function anywhere on the field. So that's where I have it.
Fair enough. So top 100 boys before we get out of here tonight.
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to the top 100 every year, I don't have much to say because it's a fallacy of a ranking of a list, and it all starts with how they poll and how they come up with these. Like for any listener that doesn't know, the way they come up with these top 100 is they go into each team and they select, I forget how many players on each team, and they give them a list. Hey, rank 1 to 20. Who are your 20 best players in the league? And then depending on how many votes each player gets, that determines the ranking. So if you were into economics and statistics, you took any kind of course like that in high school or college, you already can spot out the flaw in that voting system and how trying to construct a top 100 from polling players to say their top 20, that can get really iffy. Like when you're ranking 1 to 10, that might work, but once you get into like the mid part of the top 100 and even to the bottom part of the top 100, those are really, really bad rankings, and the data is very, very, very skewed and it's flawed data. So you get rankings like this. Fletcher Cox at what, 70 something? You're telling me Cox is the 70 something best player in the league. Brandon Brooks was what, 90 something? Like, come on.
Darius Slay, 92.
The thing is, this happens every year.
Mm-hmm.
With their list, it happens every year. And so I don't know, man. I have nothing to say in regards to, because I try not to acknowledge it because it's really, really bad.
It's a popularity contest sometimes, bro. That's, you know what I mean? There's no weight to it. It's almost just like the Pro Bowl. It's there, but it really means nothing. No, but when you just see utter disrespect where our quarterback can't even make the top 100, and you knew he was playing with practice squad players at the end of last year, that's all right. This gives them more motivation.
Exactly.
That's all. I don't know. It's frustrating.
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, it's frustrating because, I try to relay the news to people and I try to give it to them. And every time it's, and everybody's pissed off at you. And it's like, look, I think this is about as asinine as the next guy. But, I'm still just letting you guys see what these people think. Now, like Chuck said, it is such a flawed system. You hear it from some of these guys who are like, yeah, I just got done a game. I'm coming in like, oh, yeah, this guy did good, whatever. They don't even really care. So you're not even catching these guys at a moment where maybe they'd put a little bit of effort into it. They don't give a shit. And honestly, I don't put anything into it, but it is annoying. But like Pete just said, hopefully that lights a little fire under that ass and they come out swinging. So, I mean, for you to put Kyler Murray, Ryan Tannehill, like, sure, maybe there's a conversation with Dak and Wentz, but these other guys, that's a fucking joke, bro. I'm going to be real with you. It's a joke. And Carson Wentz was just number 3 a couple years ago, and he just did what? He threw for 4,000 yards without a 500-yard receiver? Ha! Okay. I'll write that down. That's my thoughts on it. The list sucks.
Yes.
The list sucks. It really does. And it's funny because, like, Jimmy Kemsky was bashing it, and I think someone, I don't know if you saw it, Jimmy. Jimmy, you replied to it.
I did.
Yeah. But a lady from the department was like, I'm offended. Like, we do all this work and everything, and we go out and we pull these players. It's definitely not lazy work. And I even replied to her. I'm like, listen, it's not that Jimmy's not saying that you or your department are lazy and useless. It's the polling structure and how it's set up to formulate the top 100. That's the issue. If you disagree, just look at each year's results. Just look at it, and what you get is really, really bad. It's really, really bad. And you're not even talking about like a difference of opinion. I think I have this guy ranked, slightly higher than you do. I mean, those you can argue and you can get by with and live with. But when you have a lot of these players ranked where they are in the top 100, it really doesn't make sense. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is 43. ranked number 43. Logan Ryan was I don't like PFF when it comes to grades, but I like them when it comes to advanced metrics and stats, because that's what they do. Logan Ryan was one of the worst graded corners in coverage last year by PFF, and top 100. He by NFL Network, he's ranked 60. The 60.
And Darius Slay's 92. Are you kidding me?
92, yeah.
I'm done. All right.
It doesn't, and Logan Ryan doesn't even have a team. So
he's still unemployed.
Unreal.
It's really bad. I mean, you have all these rankings, but you know what just sucks is just that, and what Kempsky said. They put so much work into it, and the video production is great, and the shows that they do offer is great. And NFL Network obviously is a major network, gets a lot of viewership and everything. It just sucks because if it was a better constructed list, you'd be putting out really good content for fans.
Yep.
And I think it's their responsibility to do that. You know, like there's tons of viewers out here we have on A2D that are very smart. I think A2D, a lot of us are on the staff, very smart. But we don't have the privilege of reaching the amount of people that NFL Network does, that ESPN does, that Fox does, FS1. If they actually put out smart, good content, there would be smarter fans out there.
Hey.
Yes.
But because they don't, you get a lot of dumb fans. And God.
They don't want you educated, bro. They don't want you educated.
No, they don't.
Just like the U.S. government, right? Just they don't want us educated.
That's a whole nother story for a whole nother show.
We actually talked about that.
Oh, you got to bring me on.
A few weeks ago. We went off on a tangent and we talked about the education system in this country, but it's really bad. But I mean, these lists, like, for our advice, and I'm sure you guys agree, our advice here at A2D Radio to all of you guys, if you don't already follow, when it comes to those major networks and they make lists like this, don't ever take it for gospel. Like, use your common sense and be smart, man. Be smart when it comes to this. And because they're on a major network or these players played the game before, it doesn't make them the smartest analysts there are out there. And that's what I always say. Like, always give the lower guy a chance, because there are a lot of good analysts on social media, on Twitter, that I found that you can follow. Yes. A lot of great coaches that will give you amazing content. They'll really teach you the game. That, like, I wouldn't be where I am without listening to numerous podcasts, following numerous people on Twitter that educate, without going to the Scouting Academy. You know, I would not be where I am today constantly learning if it weren't for that. It wasn't because of ESPN or NFL Network that I got smarter. It was because I did research and followed the right people when it comes to learning about the game. So just do yourself a favor and do the same. Follow the right people and be smarter. And, you know, you can find it. You can absolutely find it.
So real quick before we get out of here, Don just asked the question, where will we rank Carson Wentz at?
He's a top 5 quarterback.
On the top 100, where would you put him top 20?
I don't know. This list is so stupid. He's got top 20, top 10 for what he did with that team.
If it's tough for top 100 because you're encompassing all of the positions. Mm-hmm. It's really tough for me to put a number out there. But if I'm talking about just quarterback, there's no way he's lower than top 10 quarterback in the league. No way. Anywhere between, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 and 10. To me, that's a reasonable range. Like, you put him anywhere there, I'm not going to argue against you. But wherever you want to put him in top 100 in respect to all the other positions, I mean, I don't know. But there's no way you can't not have him on this list. There's no way. Top 100 players, tell me 100 players you take before Carson Wentz, and that's garbage.
Nope. Exactly. That's a great way to look at it. If you did a redraft of this league with all players involved, obviously the quarterback is one of the most important positions. So a lot of the quarterbacks are going to go first. And like you said, he's one of those top 10 quarterbacks. I could see him definitely in the top 5, especially this year with some weapons. But yeah, man, I think that he made such an impact. Like nobody thought we were going to the playoffs except for, the people that were pulling for him, the Eagles fans, so to see what he did with what he had, and it wasn't just the receivers, there was injuries all across the board, man, offensive line, defensive, so hey, keep sleeping on it, man. Keep sleeping. I love it.
And DeAndre says something here, which Eagles are constantly getting dogged. Everywhere you go, you just hear negative stuff. When taking notes, believe it. I almost like, because last year we got a lot of attention on us for being Super Bowl contenders.
Yep.
It's almost like for me now,
we're back.
Almost like us being slept on in the media. In the media. Don't talk about us. That's perfectly fine. I'd rather get less attention at this point because I don't like the more attention you put on yourself. Sometimes that can be a negative thing from a fan's perspective, from a fan's point of view. I don't think the players put, much stock into that stuff, but, I don't mind the negative attention. I don't mind the no attention because when it comes down to it, the field of play is going to dictate, who really is good and what's not. So we'll see. I mean, look at the Niners last year. I was one of maybe 10 people in the whole country that thought the Niners were going to win the division. And they made it all the way to the Super Bowl. A lot of people didn't believe in them, but you just never know with some teams, and you always get the surprise teams and everything. So sleep on us. Go ahead, sleep on us, and I have no problem with it.
Yeah,
all right, boy. Anything else before we wrap it up for this evening?
Nah, man, I just want to say thank you to all the fans, man. Just keeping in with the interaction for every show. You guys just don't bring it for our show. You bring it for Monday Night Hounds, Tuesday Night Birds of a Feather, 6 in the PM. On Wednesdays, Lazy Booking, Hockey Happy Hour. And then On the Road to Victory on Friday. We got this weekly roundup on Saturday with In This Very Ring, and the flagship on Sunday, Agree to Disagree. And Chuck doesn't know his left from his right on camera, so I won't
I don't either, man. I always do that. I'm like, really?
Yeah, guys, catch Jimmy on the Road to Victory every Friday. He does a great show. So definitely catch him on there as well as all the other shows that Pete mentioned. But Jimmy, thanks again, man. Thanks for covering for Chrome and for Kevin, who's hiding again. Hopefully he won't hide next week. But we appreciate you, and you're always a delight to work with.
Oh, dude, it was my pleasure. I loved when I got to meet you guys and have you on my show. I'd love to have you on again. And it was seriously my pleasure to come on here. I was excited all day to get on and talk with you guys. You guys are very knowledgeable, and this was awesome. So anytime you ever need anybody, I mean, I know I'm not Chrome, but I can definitely try to do what I can, man. And, thanks for Kevin and Chrome for giving me the opportunity to step in. And thanks for all the fans for tuning in, the Dons and Prisms and the Michaels and Gavins, everybody that tunes in. You guys are awesome, dude. So thanks for letting me come on, Pete and Chrome. Chrome and Spirit. And Chuck.
Absolutely, man. This definitely won't be the last time you're on with us. I
appreciate that.
So everyone, thanks for tuning in again. Our show again is brought to you by our dog Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy LLC, specializedphysicaltherapy.com, and MBuck Services Gutter Cleaning. Reach them at mbuckservices.com. Our poll question was brought to you by QB54 and by Philly Drinkers. Make sure you get the best tailgating game in the business, as well as all your A2D merchandise at Philly Drinkers. Guys, we will see you next week. We'll see what happens with training camp as we get forward with all the other sports. Everyone listening, make sure you catch not baseball. Baseball might be in jeopardy, but basketball and hockey are coming back up. Flyers won in their exhibition game today. It was great. Any win against the Penguins is a great win. So I don't really care about it as being an exhibition game. But make sure you catch these sports because you don't know when they're going to go. So
breaking news too. Some breaking news. Joey Bosa, 5 years, $135 million.
Ooh, got paid.
$2 million guaranteed.
Wow.
Somebody just got paid.
Yeah. Wow. Good for him. His brother's probably going to get more. No, he probably
Yes.
will more. Yeah, that's crazy. Good job for Bosa. Man, the Bosa brothers, crazy. All right, guys, gentlemen, listeners, thank you again for tuning in to Birds of a Feather. Stay safe, and we will talk to you next week. Later.
Peace.
Go Birds.